Whether you've been in Spain for 6 months or 6 years, don't miss Pellicer and Heredia in conversation with Moody on BayRadio every other Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pellicer and Heredia are your international lawyers on the Costa Blanca and have been looking after the expat community for more than a decade. See more at alicantilawyers.es.
And as promised, our friends in from Pellicer and Heredia to be joined by Pedro later, but nice and early. In fact, earlier than expected. Antonio is back with us. Good morning. Buenos días.
Muy buenos días. Nice to be here.
Yes, well, you've been in once before, I think, on our show here.
That's right. The last one of the last year, I believe.
That's right. They allowed you to come in last time, didn't they? So we'll gently introduce you into the radio side of things.
That's right. I think it's a sign of trust, do you think?
I think so, yes. Yeah, they're a good sign, because this is a big deal, of course, of a morning. Now, what you're really up on is the MODELO 720, which is what we were just talking about. There's been the webinar on that recently, hasn't there?
That's right, and we have one later today about the topic, because we are on the midst of the filing campaign. It's from the 1st of January until the 31st of March. So, well, if you haven't thought about doing yours, then, well, you should probably hurry a little bit.
Yeah, it's been in place for a while, but it's always a worthy reminder because there's new people coming here all the time, and it could be from anywhere. And it's basically you declaring assets abroad.
That's right.
Of a certain value.
That's right. If you have more than 50,000 euros abroad, adding all kinds of things like properties or bank accounts, bank products, works of art, etc., then you have to declare them to the Spanish tax agency. Not necessarily meaning that you have to pay for them, just for them to have general information about your worldwide assets.
Yes, they like to know. Works of art, yeah, I haven't heard that included before, but of course that would count, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Everything that's registered that has over a certain value. If you have bonds as well, that could be it, for example. So,
but it's a total, isn't it? Everything adding up to 50,000 euros or more.
Yes, that's right. Okay. That's right.
And if you don't have that much, then you don't need to fill this form in.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you have a significant change of your assets abroad, then you have to file it again, because the Form 720 is one of those forms that you don't find necessarily every year. But if you've filed it, 2-3 years ago, and now you've sold a property abroad, and now you're using the cash for something else, then you have to update your form and update the information of the Spanish tax agency.
So with the threshold of 50,000 euros, I still no need to fill in a MODELO 720 myself just yet. We'll see. It's unlikely to come about anytime soon either. So the deadline is end of March, you say?
That's right.
So when do you come into this then, as a legal side of things?
Well,
it's like an accountancy thing, isn't it?
That's right. I think this is kind of a gentle way of the Spanish tax agency letting people know, okay, disclose what you have now so we can follow up in the future. We'll add it onto a database. If in the future you make a sale, or if you have debts with us or something else, then we know how much you've got and where your assets are. That's the thing.
Yes, they like to know, don't they? And there was the issue with it going to, I don't know if it was the European Court of Justice or whichever, they contested it, but it was about the size of the fines initially.
That's
if you didn't declare it, because they just made up an astronomical figure if you didn't fill this in.
That's it. The thing is, whenever you introduce a new tax or a new form, like as it is this case, there's always a resistance by the public to fill it, particularly when you are disclosing something as personal of your personal wealth to an authority that's, in fact, a foreign tax authority, right? You may be a resident in Spain, maybe you don't have Spanish nationality. So, well, there weren't that many people filing for that. So what they've decided is to start systems of rates or, checks on people. And because the fines were so high, that, well, got everyone back into the house, let's say.
Yeah, they took it to Europe, didn't they? But I think a lot of people thought that the whole thing had been scrapped, but it wasn't. It was just the court in Brussels, wherever Strasbourg, had ruled against the size of the fines, not the implementation of the
That's exactly it. Yes. Well, it was decided that the Spanish tax authority still has a right to know what assets do non-nationals or residents here in Spain have abroad. But yeah, the fines were probably a little bit too high. So they scrapped the amount of the fine, but the form is still very much alive, and I believe it will be, for a long time.
Have there been, so you may have been called upon as a legal team, people that have had problems with the MODELO 720, so they filled it in, or maybe someone said it's filled in incorrectly, and you've had to go back in and to take up a legal case with it?
Yeah, that's quite common, because the Form 720 looks quite straight and quite simple, but it's really not really that simple, because assets are divided into categories. So you have to file every category correctly. And sometimes it's difficult for a Spanish tax firm to understand the kind of assets that you may have in another country, particularly when you're talking about pension funds or systems of saving that you have in other countries, in the United States or in the United Kingdom as well. We are not keen or not very big on private pensions here in Spain or private funds of that kind, because most of Spanish retired people live off a public pension or state pension. However, well, that's not the case in the UK, where the pension that you get from the state normally is your small pension, and you have a big pension from your work.
Yeah.
So that sometimes cannot be easily encased into the form. So that requires some legal study and some proper advice in order to be able to correctly fit each asset into each, let's say, square.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's one of those forms, perhaps, where people would, like myself, I'd probably say, "Oh, I can do this myself. It's no problem. I know some Spanish," but it might be worth talking to someone or getting someone to do it for you.
Of course, yeah. That's why we do webinars about this, and it's something that's always the highlight of the first quarter of the year is the Form 720. Second quarter is always the renta, right?
Yeah.
Your tax return when you are a resident, but first quarter is all about Form 720.
So that was an interesting term to use. That's the highlights of the year, filling in the Modelo 720 and then paying your tax as well.
I know, yeah.
What a way to start the calendar year. AlicanteLawyers.es, by the way, is the website which we'll always point you towards, and joined by Pedro, who, well, I'm not sure we need you in now. He's carried this fine. The boy done good, as they'd have said in football management a few years ago. Good morning, welcome back.
Buenos dias, good morning, everyone.
So we've covered a bit of the Modelo 720 there, talking about that because it's the period to fill it in now.
Normally, with those who started to be tax resident last year, in this case, but also for those ones that or maybe didn't declare it because they didn't know it, or just they cancel, for example, a bank account in the past or last year. So there are some situations that maybe if they did it some years ago, now they have to do it again if something has changed. But normally, for those who started to be tax resident last year, 2022, this year, if they have assets abroad, which is over 50,000 euros, it will have to be explained. Obviously, there are some specifications on this about the 50,000 euros. And obviously we will be speaking about that, yeah.
Is there a period where you do need to update it even if nothing's changed? It's not like every 5 years you have to
notice that always for Modelo 720 we are giving values at the end of a year, values on the 31st of December of the previous year, or the average rate of the last quarter. So those values are the ones who are compulsory. Imagine that you have a property that you sold it in April. Well, that doesn't count.
Right.
In case that you were tax resident last year. But if you were before, and obviously you inform about that property that you had in the past and you sold it last year, for example, then you need to inform the tax office that you have already sold it. Why? This is obviously an informative declaration. Tax office wants to know if you had a property and now you sold it, you have a capital gain.
Yes, that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And they keep an eye out for that sort of
Exactly.
thing. I know, but it does frighten people because they immediately think they'll be taxed on that straight away. But it's not. It's
an informative declaration. It's informative. Obviously, you will be catch all the information that they cannot get easily from tax offices abroad. Normally, with Spain has a lot of agreements with different tax offices in the world, and they get information from, for example, European countries. American countries, for example, United States or Canada, they don't get any information at all. Obviously, this information, this informative declaration, obviously is to inform tax office what do you have in the world, what assets could be can give you some income that you need to declare in the tax return in order to at the end to pay more taxes. Yeah.
And it's any country outside of Spain, isn't it? It's not an EU thing. So even if you're within the EU, you still need to declare something, say you're in the Netherlands or somewhere.
Absolutely.
It's
That's
not just for third countries.
And not just if you imagine that you have for example, a property that says the values on property, for example, is a debt acquisition value. Imagine that you bought a property of 90,000 euros, but it's jointly 50%. So someone will say, well, I joined 45,000 euros because when I bought it, you need to declare anyway. You need to declare any value of acquisition, for example, a property, which is over 50,000 euros, even though you own 1%, for example. Or even though, I have a bank account in the UK, which is 40,000 euros. And also I'm authorized in another bank account, which is not, I'm not ownership. I'm just authorized another one, which is another 20,000 euros. Then you need to report that.
Yeah, I guess
that's an example.
Yeah, if it's a bank account, I suppose you need to work it out if it takes you over 50,000 in euros, because you'll probably have it in sterling.
Yeah.
You think, oh, that's fine. Oh no, hang on. When the exchange rate changes, you're suddenly over 50,000. There's all these things to take into account. I think we have updates, do we, Pedro, on the Nomad Visa as part of the Ley de Startups, which has come into play. Has it gone through the Senate now?
Well, it's already right now. It's working right now. It's already approved. I mean, at this time is on in order to apply for right now.
Mm-hmm. No, just an outline of what this is, because we talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
You've done webinars on it, but any updates?
Well, I mean, update is like right now we are receiving like a extraordinarily attractive questions about Nomad Visa in order to start getting this visa in Spain. Obviously, everyone is like saying, okay, well, I'm going to apply for this visa. It looks like it's easy in order to, if obviously you fulfill the requirements of you work in a company, you are a professional, there are some period of time. But also there is a tax issue, which is extremely important. This law really changed the situation about those who wants to come to Spain in when we call it like digital like a scenario, digital atmosphere, in order to create companies that is going to work. And so they have a lot of tax benefits. But for those who just come to Spain and work like a professional or like a company, if the income is is like high, let's say high, has a really good benefit because it has a fixed percentage to be taxed, which is 24%.
That's a flat rate across the board, right?
And the good thing is that you are treated like a non-resident tax, really. You are treated like on wealth tax, you are treated like a non-resident tax. And you don't have to declare your worldwide income. You just have to declare the income that you have from your salary or professionally. No the dividends, no interests, no withdrawing or any other investments. So it has not just the 24% flat fee, but also some other issues that may occur that you may have to pay capital gains if you were like tax resident in Spain. For example, what if you sell a property in the UK, you get a Nomad Visa in Spain, you sell a property in the UK, and then you just don't reinvest, you just sell a property that you get a big capital gain will not be taxed in Spain if you get a Nomad Visa with this special tax benefit. This special tax benefit is not just for those who has Nomad Visa, it's also for non-residents who come to Spain in order to work.
I see. Now, the general outline of it, the main point of it was that you're working based in Spain, maybe working from home, but earning money from a company outside of Spain.
Exactly.
What I saw that had changed, or a new thing that was that you can earn up to 20% from a Spanish company.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously,
is that new? Is that in addition to this?
Yeah, it's a limited. You cannot earn money at maximum 20% of any company in Spain. So at least 80% or more. You have to get it outside from companies outside of Spain, at least. Yeah,
yes, because originally we were saying you can't earn anything inside of Spain, so that was the big change that I saw, or an update on it. And what about was there a minimum you need to be earning, or it's a bit like the other visas where you've got to show some proof
in the different visas, we always say about the savings that you must have in your account or have access to that. Just in case you don't work, you have enough money to live in Spain. That's the key point. With this kind of visa, what you have to show, we call it like minimum salary required, which is in Spain is 1,050 euros. Well, let's say that amount. So it's 200% above that amount. So let's talk about 2,100 euros. So per year will be around 25,000 euros per person that has a salary to obtain that. Does it mean that you have to have like savings about that money? Not really. You just have to show that you have enough. The income that you're gonna get, is over that amount. Obviously, if you help with savings or other investments that you may have, and you have access to them, will help you obviously to get the visa.
How will you sort of prove that you're going to earn that much? Is it
at the end,
the
base rolls, earnings that you have, the contract employment, at the end, the tax returns that you have from last year, any proof you can show. And obviously, when Nomad Visa, you need to show that you have been working in a company at least the last 3 months, and the company that you work in, if he's an employee, the company is valid and has an existence of more than 1 year.
Because I think I've said this a lot most times that we talk about this, is that you sort of picture this digital nomad visa as, you know, some little skateboarder chap that does some video work or online bits, but it's not going to be quite as easy just to be able to come over here and earn enough to get by. You need to be showing proof that you can... Exactly.
Yeah. And also you have to have, for example, if you're an employee, you need to have authorization by the company that you are allowed to work in Spain, that you kind of work that you do is remotely, and you can work remotely and with a digital system like computer. Obviously, you need to prove some things, obviously, and it's important to do without that. Important also that you will be able to do it once you are in Spain with, for example, a tourist visa. In, for example, a non-lucrative visa that many of our clients made before. And they had to do it in the Spanish consulate. And it takes some time. It takes like 3 to 4 months or maybe more to get a resolution, then to get a visa, and then to have a authorization to enter in Spain. So it takes time. And this one you will be able to get it once you are here, obviously with all the documents properly done, with the apostilles of all the public documents, with the sworn translation. And then we apply telematically. We do it in 10, 20 days you may get. If you fulfill the requirements, you may get the visa. So it's very rapid.
Yes, that was to be my next question. Yes, how much waiting around? Because you imagine it's going to take a while. But
it is like the golden visa.
It's like the investment visa,
because it is part really of the golden visa law, really. It's like investment visa.
Yeah. Okay, so, and it may be that you can switch from the non-lucrative visa to this new one.
Those who had before and have been resident in Spain, they are able to be authorized in order to do it. There are many people that have right now is in non-lucrative visa, but they are really working.
Antonio, how long have you been with the company, the firm?
How long? Yeah, yes, that could be from summer 2021.
All right, and you've seen a lot of the sort of visa applications. This is a big part of what you do.
Yes, in fact, well, although I haven't been with the company for that long, I've been doing this kind of business for some time now, for around 10 years or so.
Sure, yeah.
So I've worked for other companies, and I think Pellicer Heredia is the one that does the most work in visas that I've seen before.
And of course, it's changed for Brits in the last few years, post-Brexit.
Of course. It used to be very easy.
Yeah.
But now what you've got is a wide range of possibilities. Used to be only just the one, right? The European visa now, or the European residency, or Q, as we call it. But now you can have non-lucrative, can have golden visa, and of course now the Nomad Visa as well.
But it wasn't something brand new, because you'd already been dealing with people coming from maybe North America, and it's a similar process.
Of course, what it was tough back in the day was to adapt the system that the expectations British people were having when moving here to what was going to be definitely. In fact, there were growing pains for everybody involved. Not only clients, of course, that they have different expectations, and there was a lot of misinformation online. Things now are a little bit more clear, but still, beware of Googling about visas. You can get expired information on how it used to be pre-Brexit.
Yes, good point.
But also the extranjería, right? The Foreign Office themselves, they did change gradually the system. So they had prior system, then one when Brexit was announced, then another one while Brexit was executed before the Acuerdo de Retirada, the implementation of Article 50, and now what it's ended up to be. Well, let's call it the final version, or would be better to say the current version, probably.
Yeah, sure. And also, as far as legal representation goes, have you seen many people getting deported or sent back because they've outstayed their welcome? Because I've read about it. I don't know how big a thing it is.
That's right. I've also read about it. I'm always curious, particularly when it started. If you remember, there used to be a lot of British people, well, not only British, but mainly British people, because they were the ones affected by Brexit, that were staying in Spain as residents, really, but without declaring it, taking advantage of the no frontiers, no borders kind of thing. So once the end of the Brexit temporary period finished, and it became in force, I think it was January 2021, you had basically 3 months to get out of Dodge, or if not, then would be here staying over illegally. And I had a lot of clients overstaying their welcome, and a few of them were afraid. No deportations back in the day, but you read it. You were able to read it. I'm happy to say none of my clients were deported, as far as I'm aware, so that's always good.
Tell Ignacio next time you see him, I'm not taking it personally that he hasn't made an appearance in 2023 yet. He's busy. He'll be in court somewhere, I'm sure, or doing other things. But it's a pleasure to have the two of you in. We just want to touch on property side of things. This is a lot of what you do as well, Antonio, isn't it? I think from the last time we spoke, I seem to recall.
That's right up my alley.
What's happening with the markets at the moment? It seems to be buoyant and price is still right up there.
Yeah,
Or is it?
Well, I do think it is still. I think depends on the region. Mm-hmm. Despite the latest interest increase that was decreed here, now it's up to 4 points, I believe. Still, maybe there's a lot of people thinking, well, yeah, mortgages rates are high, but they're going to get higher. So let's better get this purchase done before it gets worse. And I think that's still the feeling, because until the ceiling of the increase is announced, there will still be. And of course, there's still part of the market, which are people that really don't need a mortgage. They are, they're strapped for, the other way around. They're not strapped for cash. Those the purchasers are not impacted at all by the rates, probably the other way around. So they're still buying. And here, at least here in Javea, we have a interesting market because it's very different. We have people from all over Europe and outside Europe buying here in groups. So that makes it kind of a more resilient market to the decrease in sales.
Yeah.
So far so good.
I think nationwide, Spain, there's a lot more variable rate mortgages, aren't there, than maybe the UK, for example. So they are affected by this change in the Euribor, which is governing the mortgage rate.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting comparison how the mortgages in the UK work and how they work in Spain. Here in Spain, you have three types of mortgages, right? You can have a fixed rate for all the duration of the mortgage. So if it's 20 years and it's 20 years fixed rate, whatever the rate is, you can have, of course, variable rate, which is a fixed number plus the Euribor, and you can have mixed, which are probably the less common of them all, in which you have a set of years in fixed 5, 10, 15, and then the rest is variable rate. But I don't think that's the case in the UK. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the UK most mortgages are mixed, right? You have a period of fixed rate and a period of variable rate?
It's not my area of expertise, but I've never been adulty enough to take out a mortgage. I believe there's a lot more fixed rates mortgages then, and they might have grabbed a decent rate as well in more recent years because interest rates have been very low. But starting to go up now. I know the government was looking at capping any further rise or maybe doing what they can.
That's a good point. Well, as you probably know, we have a coalition government here in Spain. Yeah. We've got PSOE, which is a traditional left wing, and then we have Podemos and the rest, which are more to the left. So there's a disparity of opinions. The more, let's say, centered of those two parties believe that things are so far okay. But the Podemos, which they do try always to defend what they believe is the most vulnerable party, even if it's against the wanting of the market. They believe that they should stop mortgages. They put a limit to mortgages. If not, then it's going to become madness. That is funnily enough because anyone that I've talked about this that is over 50 or 55, they remember when they got their property on the first time, maybe 30 years ago, and they say that variable rates were 13, 15, 17 back then, and now we've got, 4, and people are getting crazy. But that's not my case, as I'm young enough, so I don't know, I think there's always a little bit cause for concern.
It's true, I mean, it's been a long time since the rates got that high, and inflation as well, obviously, the two going along sort of hand in hand, as it were. But there'll be, things are changing though in Spain, aren't they? Because traditionally there was like the family home, and then it got passed on, but those people, and then the youngsters are moving out of these areas now and maybe selling that house. And what's it called? España vaciada.
That's right.
So, it's we had a story in our Spanish news yesterday. I think it was about only 12% of Spain is inhabited.
Well,
and the half of the population lives in 4% of the country, obviously in the big cities.
I don't know about those numbers, but
that's
something
like that.
Similar to that could be true. It is, that has always happened, I guess, in every developed country, but also in Spain. If you go to Madrid, it's packed. If you go to Barcelona, Valencia, it's packed. Here in Alicante, I believe we are one of the counties or provinces that has the most population. Yeah. So I think we're better distributed. You've got people living almost all over the province. But I know there are provinces that there's almost, well, not no one, but that population has been dwindling, declining all over the years.
Yes, and perhaps this Nomad Visa was maybe looking towards that, to fill up bring people over to these areas, because if they can work from home, if they can work from anywhere, then you can put them entice them to these areas that have been deserted,
yes,
right?
In fact, that's been one of the efforts from local governments. Obviously, there's other provinces, Albacete, Ciudad Real, others, that they have lower population, either thinking we should get more people living in here. If not, there's small towns that, can become, cemeteries, really.
Yeah.
So if they manage to get something attractive for people to lure them into living here, if you work over the internet, you don't really have to go pop into the office, and you can choose anywhere. You can always choose the beach. But if you would like to get into the Spanish countryside, which, by the way, is beautiful, then you can probably get better rates. I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it sounds idyllic. It's the sort of thing I'd set my eye on myself. But if you just get a decent internet connection and you're all set. Sometimes the services, you have to put up with electricity and water supplies and the like. You see that place in Tenerife that they spotted? It was illegally built on
I personally haven't.
And surreptitiously, isn't it?
Yes, and they found it from obviously aerial photography, but also
Really?
I think some of the locals had grassed them up as well. They'd ratted them out, and it's a big old place with a pool and water and electricity connected to a nearby farm. So obviously that goes to the court now, and there'll probably be a demolition order, which you will have seen this in the past in maybe parts of Costa Blanca as well.
There have been a lot of situations that there's been a demolition. And we can see, for example, in Almería, this big hotel that was also built.
Yes, that's right.
Near the coast, on the coast. But we've seen this many, many times. This is why when we recommend clients in order to when buying properties, normally when it's villas with land, is near the coast or near in a mountain, whatever, these kind of situations, always to apply for planning reports, check perfectly the property, many times send an architect to check the property, and obviously just to realize that if it has any file against the property. We have many situations that we have found where someone who wants to buy a property and has some area of the building has a file on demolition, for example, a garage, a barbecue, something that has been built without a license, has a demolition order, maybe 7 years old, 5 years old. The agents are saying, no, this is already eliminated, is prescribed, is no actions, but it's not. In many cases it's not so. But these kind of situations, obviously, right now the administration is looking for any illegal situation more and more,
Yeah, and don't forget they have drones these days,
exactly.
so you can't hide anything away.
Of course.
We're out of time. It's 11 o'clock already, mainland Spain time. Thanks ever so much for your time today. We always appreciate it.
Pedro and Heredia are your international lawyers based on the Costa Blanca. We've been assisting expats for over a decade with laws to protect assets and look after your loved ones, and continue to do so in post-Brexit Spain. For advice on tax, wills and inheritance, immigration or real estate, call 965 480 737.